news. Then he was fired, and he was a freelance writer then, and the poor guy, he went by the wayside, a bullet hole.
Yep.
First of all, a bullet tore off his chin, and then the second bullet went into his head. So.
Well, he just wanted to make sure he did it right. Also,
Well, I contend that he was struggling, and the first shot went off.
That makes sense.
The mark, and
yeah.
it's very obvious that's what happened. But the thing about it that's kind of shocking is how the coroners come up with these conclusions.
Right.
But I think the Illuminati's infiltrated numerous coroners' offices across the country. I know that they have in Arkansas. When Bill Clinton was having all those deaths in the Mina drug operation.
Yeah, and those 3 boys or 2 boys that were killed, they killed them and then put them on the railroad track. Unbelievable. I think the last body count, there was an attorney, a woman attorney, Ted, who used to live in, I think, St. Louis, and she's disappeared. But she was keeping a running tally of people associated or in the circle with Clinton who were mysteriously killed. And I think the last I heard, and then she disappeared, was 175 people.
Well, did she disappear, or was she kidnapped and disappeared? Do we know?
Nobody knows. I mean, I've even tried
to
find
family?
her. That I don't recall. All I know is that she was a practicing attorney, and she's no longer around. I mean, and she used to put these reports out all the time, so she just disappeared. So my concern and fear is that she disappeared with help.
It sounds like
yeah. I have another friend, Larry Nichols. I don't know if you know who he is.
I know him very well. I used to have a radio show, 97, 98. He used to be on my show all the time.
Okay, well, Larry is, an old friend, and he said, because we've talked about it on the air, about the number of people that have been killed connected with the Clintons. And I mean Clintons, plural, everybody.
Suicide. They were suicided.
Yeah, suicided is right. And he said that he can prove. He said, I can't prove the 175, but he said, I can prove the 50. So here's a guy who can literally, if it ever came out, he could prove that the Clintons were directly involved in at least 50 murders. Now, Ted, here's an example that I do not understand. I mean, and it shows you either the sickness of this country of ours or world of ours, but I'm not sure what. Here you have 2 individuals who can be proven, not only are they crooked, not only are they liars, but they're murderers, and every low-class characteristic a human being can have, and both of them are idolized by tens and hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And do you know, there's a very good chance that I have to be careful what I say, okay, that Hillary Clinton could be our next president. Do you realize that?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
That's sad and that's scary.
Well, there's a question about Jack Kennedy Jr.'s death.
Exactly.
He was getting ready to run for the Senate in New York. And,
yes, he was.
And also, he was going to do an article in his magazine. George, isn't that what it is?
It was, yes, it's gone
now.
now.
George,
right,
yeah.
George.
He was going to do an article there about his dad's assassination.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he dies. So.
Yep. Under mysterious circumstance. I mean, in John Decamp's book, I remember the quote that he says in the back about Bill Colby, who was head of the CIA, but also, I think, the mentor of John Decamp and a very, very close friend of his. And Colby said, when they, the agencies or whomever will assassinate somebody, you will never know it. And he said, that's a good assassination. And look at all the ones that we have around that always, people say, oh my gosh, he had a terrible airplane accident. And as I say that, I can't help but think of, oh gosh, the one guy who had the proof. He was bringing back the pictures, Gary Caradori. You remember that? Oh, man alive. So,
well, going back to Colby, he was writing a book also.
Yeah, right.
And he was interrupted in the middle of a meal. His meal was still on the table. His computer was on.
Right.
And we want to ask John Decamp about that tonight.
Yep.
Because I happen to know that Colby did not drown. He was shot in the head. And in fact, I notified President Bush of that in a letter.
Oh, that'll mean a lot, won't it?
Yeah. And
Jeez.
I notified him of that because, just let him know. I thought he ought to know that.
Yeah.
And the word that I have is that they kidnapped him. And he was talking on the phone when there was a knock on the door for him also, by the way.
That's right.
And the party that was talking to him heard voices. And
then supposedly he went out canoeing.
Then he went out canoeing, or whatever.
Left his meal on the table, like you said. And
well, his Mariners flag wasn't up.
No.
And he's a very fastidious person, as John would tell you.
Right.
See, John worked under him in Vietnam on the Phoenix program.
Yeah.
And you want to mention to the audience what the Phoenix program was?
Why don't we let John do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
See if he'll talk about it. I don't know.
Well, then
we'll ask him. Okay, let's put that down for a question to ask him.
Then I'll let you talk about it. I mean, because if he won't, one way or another, we're going to get the information out.
Well, that was, I'll just say briefly what it was. Maybe ask him more details if he will.
Yeah.
He probably can't talk about it because, let's face it, John was with the agency at that time.
Yeah, and he was a very integral part in it.
Yeah, and this was a program where we went behind the enemy lines.
Yep.
And assassinated, people who were sympathetic to communism.
Yeah. Well, the leaders, like village leaders and town leaders.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe it wouldn't be fair to have him say it, but I'll ask him anyway.
I'll ask him, and he'll tell you. He's not going to divulge anything that should not be divulged, because once you're in the agency like that, there's certain things you cannot say, and this may be one of them for him.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, because the implications are staggering. I mean,
again, this was wartime.
Yeah, that's true. Well, an undeclared war, of course.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Fortunate. I'm not sure if that was fortunate or unfortunate. Yeah.
My heavens. Well, one of the things that I really hope that we can bring out again, Ted, is the seriousness of this whole thing that's going on with the pedophile rings, the scope of it. Maybe some, I just do name names. If I knew them, I'll come out and tell you, because there's no reason in the world why these individuals, primarily men, should be able to hide behind anonymity and still continue with this god-awful practice. I mean, it's just terrible what is happening to our children around the world.
Well, Washington had a just fantastic idea. Set up a special task force across the country, and that's not controlled by the politicians. And we could break this thing in a matter of a month, just a few months. We could expose it and go after them, set up our own grand juries, our own prosecutors. That was a great idea that he came up with last night.
Can we do that as citizens?
We might look into that, but I don't know how long any of us would live. But
that's true. Because these boys who are running it, they're the ones that pull the strings.
Well, yeah, they're trying to do me in right now. In fact, there's every indication they're gassing me on a regular basis, and at night, and in my apartment where I'm staying in L.A., by the way. And they have various techniques that they can take you down where it looks like natural causes.
Oh, sure. Oh, heart attack, cerebral hemorrhage. I mean, there are so many things that all of a sudden people say, "Oh gosh, poor Ted. He was under such strain, and his diet was awful." And then they can, create other things like they did with Mike Riconosciuto, and Mike. Now, I just got to say a little bit about it, because I think this guy is one of the neatest guys in the world. And as I said, and I have said all along, he's the smartest person I've ever met in my life.
He's brilliant. I never have asked him what his IQ is, but by the way, I received a letter from Mike today.
Oh, did you? Good.
Yeah, and in connection with the Placerville case.
Yep.
And that's the case where involves covert military intelligence operation, satanic cults, and the victim is Richard Hamlin.
Yeah.
Former district attorney in Sacramento, California. We might get into that, when
I'd like to,
as we go along.
Yeah, I'd like to. I really would. Why don't we take a break, Ted, and I'll get John on, and then we can continue.